So we are working with insight meditation now, and we're referencing Thrangu Rinpoche's wonderful book, Tranquility and Insight, and Pema Chodron's book, How to Meditate. And we've been working with some very classic examples that help us understand how our minds function, the nature of reality, how we are creating that reality that is actually illusory, and how these examples point out for us what the nature of an illusion is. And last week, we were working with relational understanding, discriminating understanding, using different sizes of incense sticks, and how we assign value with the example of a piece of paper. And today we're going to start out with the very classic example of the moon and water. And you'll find this just, in countless meditation texts. So if you're near a body of water, a lake, a well, the ocean, a river, if you have a swimming pool, it may work in a swimming pool. I haven't tried that. But if you're not near a body of water, a black cast iron frying pan filled with water, if you put that outside, when the moon is shining, you'll see a reflection of the moon in the water, on the surface of the water, in the frying pan, on the lake, etc. And what we want to look at is what we want to understand is what is an illusion. So looking at that moon, the moon is definitely appearing in the water. And if you look at it, there's not a lot of difference between the moon appearing in the water and the moon appearing in the sky. It seems like it is there, but then you reach to touch it and there's nothing there. And if you were looking at the moon and water, let's say in a larger sense, in a lake or in an ocean, you could move to different vantage points, and every place you go, you would still see the moon reflected in the water. And if there were ripples, then you'd see multiple moons. So here we have something that is appearing, yet has no intrinsic existence. So the moon is appearing there, but there is no moon there. There's no existing moon there. There's only a reflection. So that helps us understand the phenomena that we experience. There are appearances there, but when we investigate, there is no intrinsic reality. Likewise, if we have a conceptual thought or a strong emotion, it appears in our mind, but when we investigate, there is no intrinsic reality to that appearance. And this takes a long time to understand because we operate on assumptions all the time that everything that appears in the phenomenal world around us exists the way we think it exists, and that the emotions that we have are true. And if I'm angry, I'm definitely angry. But what the moon and water teaches us is investigate. Is it there the way you assume it's there, or is it something altogether different? So today, last week we were looking a little bit about outside phenomena, and today we're going to look at inside phenomena. And one of the easiest examples of that, everybody can relate to anger. We all get irritated about things. We all, it's very easy to think about politics or a traffic jam, or in any situation, if things are not going your way, it's easy to get frustrated, irritated, or definitely angry. And these days we know the word trigger. So we know we have lots of triggers, and if somebody were to say a certain word to you, you would feel anger. So now let's see how insight meditation differs a little bit from what we've been doing up to this point. So first of all, we have to have the foundation. And the foundation is our minds have to be stable, and we stable our minds with shamatha meditation. So let's just take a minute, take a breath, follow our breath, and stabilize our minds. Without that stabilization, our minds are so scattered, we can't actually examine something that is so elusive and fleeting as an illusion. So up to this point, when we've talked about anger, we've said, okay, we want to see how our minds work, and we can see that there's a relationship between a storyline and energy. If I said the trigger word to you, you would call to mind your story, and there would be a buzz or some pressure. There would be the story and a sensation of energy. And if our minds were not stabilized, we'd go directly into that situation. And those people who have PTSD are so in that situation, they find it difficult to come out of it. So that is one way our minds work. And so we look at what is our strategy. Our strategy is to escape the suffering of that anger, right? And so instead of getting angry, we might flip on the TV, or we might run to the fridge, or we might turn on some music. So we have strategies to not deal with our anger. So what we say, first of all, is, okay, what if we accept ourselves totally human? Everybody has anger, and we don't struggle with it, and we observe it with friendliness and curiosity. With friendliness and curiosity, we can identify the story, and we can look at the energy. And as we've done many, many times, the exercise of dropping the story and allowing the energy to play itself out, but noticing that without the continuous resurrecting of the story, the energy can't sustain itself. So we've all gotten to the point, I believe, that we've seen, this is impermanent, that it doesn't sustain itself, and it will dissipate. And if we can look at it with friendliness and curiosity and stay with it, we can watch it dissolve. And just to remind everyone again that this is so counterintuitive to the way we've operated all of our lives. The idea of welcoming these emotions, the idea of sitting with these emotions, and the sensations we feel can be very strong. So even investigating it to this point, that is wonderful. And that may be where we stay for, many, many years. And those folks with PTSD, that may be a lifelong struggle of theirs. So we're applying our observation and our curiosity and seeing the relationship between the story and the intensity. And there's a logical kind of observation that sees the escalation of anger and methods we can use to de-escalate. So we have a choice. We're not stuffing our emotions. We're not running away from our emotions. We're approaching it with curiosity. Now, as we move into more subtle insight meditation, we go right to the jugular of the emotions. We're working with a stabilized mind. We've approached it with friendliness and curiosity. We're not struggling, but now we want to see what is actually the nature of this illusion. Just like looking at the moon and water, we see the moon and it's almost as though we can reach out and touch it, but it's not there. Now, that's the same approach that we use with insight meditation, observing any thought, any feeling, but today we're working with anger because it is so accessible and so visible. So insight meditation, the approach is allowing anger or frustration to arise. You can use, a local recent disagreement. You can use the last time you were in a traffic jam. That's very easy. Something, not the most difficult situation. But let's say we call that to mind and we use our shamatha. We're using that frustrating situation as an object of meditation. So I'm using a traffic jam. All the tourists are in Maine. The speed limit is 25. Why is the person in front of me going 10 miles an hour? So, the frustration arises. I'm in a hurry. I'm late. Why are they going 10 miles an hour? Letting that feeling of frustration arise. And then observing that as an object of meditation. From where does that frustration appear? Where is it when it arises? It's not it was not as intense as the actual situation. This is a memory. So when it fades or dissipates, where does it go? So we're looking for the feeling thought itself, not the storyline, not the buzz, but where is that thought itself? So I want to take 5 minutes and I want to invite you to bring to mind a frustration. So you're calling up a storyline, you're letting the storyline start a buzz, but then you're letting go and you're saying, okay, I'm feeling frustration or I'm feeling anger. From where did it arise? When it is present, where is it? And when it dissipates, where does it go? So we'll take a few minutes just to go through those steps. So just reminding again, you're calling to mind intentionally an irritation or an anger. So you're using a storyline, but then you're not thinking about the story. You're letting anger arise, that feeling state, and then you're looking directly at that feeling state. It arose, but where did it come from? It's appearing, but where is it? Now, we can apply this first to our disruptive emotions, but then to any kind of thought. And you can see how stable your mind has to be in order to see through the storyline and the buzz of energy to the illusionary quality of what's happening. Okay, let's switch to desire. And today I'm going with friends on a picnic, and one of the friends is getting Popeye's fried chicken. This is the best fried chicken ever. So I can call to mind, a piece of fried chicken, the taste of it, I can really call that to mind, and I can feel the desire quality of wanting. So where does the desire come from? Not the chicken, not the story. Where does the desire come from? Where does it stay, and where does it leave? For you, it might be a fresh salad, a cup of coffee, a plate of spaghetti. Call to mind something that is desirable in terms of taste. Then watch the desire arise. But where does it come from? Where does it stay while it's staying? And where does it go? Not the image, not the story, the desire. Now, this is why the moon in water example is so very helpful. And I really encourage you to test it out, just on your patio or porch with a frying pan if you're not near water. Because let's say the desire or the anger arises just like the moon in water is like right in the middle of that frying pan. But then you reach out. It looks as though you could touch it. It looks as though it's resting on that water, but it's not there. Similarly, these disruptive emotions, these thoughts, but for now we're looking at the disruptive emotions because they're so magnetizing and have so much power over us, I can see and feel the appearance of anger. But when I look at it, when I look at its nature, there's no thing. There's an occupation of my continuum, but then you look more closely and there's no thing that is anger. So let's go into it again, because the meditation invites us really to have three distinct steps. I'm going to go back to anger. If desire is easier for you, use desire. You call up a memory, image, something, a trigger. You allow the emotion to arise, but we're not fixating on the trigger or the picture or the memory. We're looking at the emotion itself and the nature of emotion, the emotion itself. Then we're testing. Where did it arise from? Where is it when it's abiding? And where does it go? And when we can stably see that it is not there, there's an appearance, but there's no thing there, we just rest in that understanding. So every time we take one illusory quality of mind, we can go through, in a sitting practice, you might just work with one emotion and you might see how it arises over and over again, easily from a trigger point. But you look at its nature and it's not there, and then you rest. And so this is a process of dehabituating ourselves. When we're triggered, we so believe in the story that we get gripped and ripped away from the present moment into the story. We're de-energizing that pattern. We're taking the air out of that pattern like a tire. So we're seeing that it's an illusion, seeing that there is actually nothing there, and then resting. And so over time, that emotion loses its power. So we might be in the situation where we're triggered again, but we immediately look at the nature of that appearing emotion, see its illusion, and let it drop. So this is something that's over and over and over again. And so it's taking that meditation we've done for years, dropping the storyline and look at the energy one step further. Drop the storyline. Don't pay attention to the energy. Look at the supposed appearance, examine that, see directly its nature. The nature is that there is no thing there, or the nature is emptiness. Resting right there with that knowing. So now I'm going to quote Thrangu Rinpoche, and right in this section he goes into view, and I'm going to remind everyone that this is a long process, and first we have to stabilize our minds with shamatha in order to see the illusion clearly. We have to have a stable mind that's not jumping around, because we have to dehabituate ourselves. So we have to go through all our strategies, like I'm justified in being angry, or this is righteous anger, or I can't be a doormat. I need to stay in this anger. We're looking at the very nature of the anger itself, the desire itself, the pride, the jealousy, the ignorance, etc. Their very nature is that there is no there. So acknowledging that this takes a long time and that many factors have to be in place in the foundation, Rinpoche goes on to say, this realization or knowledge, when we see there's an appearance, but the appearance has no substance. It doesn't come from anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no there. When we actually are able to see that and rest there, this realization or knowledge is called clarity. Clarity is an activity that doesn't have an existing true nature because it is emptiness itself. It is just a function, not a thing. Clarity is like an attribute or quality, but there's no basis to that quality. And now this last sentence is going to just go right into the profound and into the view. And again, I want to say that we may work years just not to be triggered, years and years just not to be triggered. But as we work with insight meditation, and as the example of the moon and water is showing us, this is the sentence that's a quote, there is a process of knowing, but no knower or known. I'm going to repeat this whole quote from him. This realization or knowledge is clarity, an activity that does not have an existing true nature because it is emptiness itself. It is just a function, not a thing in itself. Clarity is like an attribute or quality, but there's no basis to that quality. There is a process of knowing, but no knower or known. So this is a profound group of sentences, but let's relate it to what we just were doing. We're sitting, we're calling to mind an emotion, due to a story or a trigger, an emotion appears. When we see that not only is it impermanent, but there is no actual thing there when we investigate. Does it arise? Does it stay? Does it go someplace? When we search for it, is there anything there? There is a realization. It's like a veil slipping away of first you were blind from seeing this, and then there's a knowing. That this inner appearing phenomena has no intrinsic existence. And this veil coming off, we're using the word realization, or this knowing, or this discovery, is clarity. It is a process. It is a function of our mind. An activity that has no existing true nature because it is emptiness itself. So we're using our mind to break through the very illusion that our mind created. Okay, let's sit with this process again. Calling to mind a frustration, an irritation, letting it arise. From where does it arise? Where is it when it's there? Where does it go? Then sitting with the not seeing, the not finding. Just relaxing with the not seeing and not finding. So again, I want to acknowledge, it takes a long time to stabilize the mind. It takes a long time not to be distracted. And we don't want to feel pain. It's hard to say, okay, I'm not going to push away this pain, this anger that I don't want to feel, whatever it is for you. I'm going to open to it. That's hard. Seeing the connection of the escalation to the storyline, that's hard. Then seeing what is it like to drop the storyline and just sit with that? That can be very hard, especially if you're caught up with a very difficult situation. And then when you're ready, with all of these exercises in place, then you can turn your curiosity to, well, what is the nature of this disruptive emotion that can be so very powerful? What if I look at its nature directly and relax right there? So I'm going to do a dedication and stop the live stream, and then we'll have questions or discussion. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.